sometimes you try to swallow something, and you can still feel it, like living.
Yeah.
Right there.
I hate
It's
that.
like, did I just not chew that
You didn't
small
chew
bit
it
of it enough or something, and now it is lodged.
You have to eat more is what happens. It's the best
throat
thing.
muscles need.
No, you just need to eat more. Eat something else.
Massage it down there.
Does the water do the trick?
No, you need to eat a piece of bread.
Yeah.
Like a dog. Dog chews up a chicken bone or something. Feed him a couple of slices of bread to help ease it on down the gullet. Apparently.
You know, I whenever I'm making something with avocado, I use my teeth to pull out the pit like in the middle, and I'm like, I live alone.
Oh, I got to see some video of this. This is spectacular news. This is not since I once saw a video of Abe on the floor of a hotel room animalistically devouring a sub sandwich in the aftermath of having, I believe that was the same year that you were.
It was South Carolina.
You were filmed passed out in the trunk of a car in Gainesville.
Oh, that was, I don't know.
Or Jacksonville.
Yeah, that's right.
Was it that same trip?
I don't know if it's...
No, the hotel, the sandwich was in Athens.
Yes. That one is at Athens, yeah.
That was the one where
Who
that
took that
night...
video? What?
One of his friends.
Howard, the Asian friend.
Unacceptable. That's a brutal betrayal.
That was the night that, during the exciting conclusion of the South Carolina-Georgia game, which I think we won, but it was fucking exciting, stressful game, I get a phone call from Abe saying, Lori, where am I? And I said, I cannot deal with you right now, Abe. Where am I?
That sounds about right.
That's well past the it's time to go home now stage. You somehow leapfrogged. It's time to go home now. Ended up somewhere
that time.
much worse.
But I will do this, and like my mom in the past would warn me, like, "Oh, you live alone. Like what? Like she's worried about some random things happening.
What if you inhale the avocado pit?
Well, not that, but like. She's like, oh, you never know what could happen. You could just fall over or whatever. Something could happen. And I never worry about anything. But every time I do that with the avocado, I'm like, this would be a terrible way for me to die. Like, this could lodge in my throat and I can't, do anything and there's no one around.
Have you considered, like, how would you deal? Like,
You should watch Final Destination.
you have to Heimlich yourself in a
You
door
can Heimlich
frame or
yourself
something,
on the
right?
back of a chair.
Yeah, but would I have the, because, it's not a pleasant experience to be, like, choking to death, right? So I'm not like, let's see, I can probably angle this chair in such a way.
So you go for so how do you slice the avocado first? Like, how do you cut into it in order to get to the situation where you have to get the pit out of there?
I used to do it like the equator, like the normal way, and then I see everybody else doing it the other way, and I'm like, have I been doing this wrong?
You said the normal way. What the fuck are you talking about?
So you have
the equator.
Yeah, the equator is the normal way, but everybody else does it the opposite way.
So wait, when you say the equator, what you're saying is that you end up with if the avocado. Like a pear shape, essentially, is what the avocado is. You end up with two unequal halves, where you have the northern hemisphere is significantly smaller than the bedonk.
You know what equator means?
Yeah, it's like
the word equator.
Yeah. If you look,
it doesn't mean one half's bigger.
Yeah, it's the same. I'm not doing. I transitioned into this other way, the long way.
Right, I cut mine the long way, where So at the top you have the stupid top of the avocado with that little pit thing.
Yeah.
Like it's the not the pit, but it like what is that thing? It's where it attaches to the fucking plant, right?
Yeah.
Like the stem.
Yeah.
So I pop the stem out,
right,
and then I cut that in half long ways all the way around.
Yeah.
To make two equal halves.
Two equal halves.
Are you telling me? I'm getting a half either way. What are you talking about? You get a half.
No, you're not. That's not how halves work.
It's half both ways.
What you're telling me is that you cut the ass and the torso of the avocado in half. Is that what, when you say the equator?
Okay. Give me 1 second. All right. So
Abe has returned with an avocado.
All right. So this is what you were talking about earlier, right? This little
Right.
thing.
There's the stem.
So I used to do it the right way, like the equator, right? Right
Okay.
here.
No,
Yeah.
think,
But then
think
now
about
I
the
do it
word
this
you're
way.
saying. Think about the word equator.
Okay. Think about this right there.
Right. You're talking about like the latitude, right? You would cut around the equator as though the avocado were an oblong spheroid like our own Earth.
Yes. And so I've done it both ways. I get equal amounts both ways.
I've never cut it along the equator in the way that you're suggesting. Instead, I've always cut it in half so that I have two equal halves. Because usually, from the stem to the middle of the avocado, there's less meat than in the badonk of the avocado, right? Like the bottom of the avocado, like you have one that is particularly round, I will say right now. You can make an argument that an equator cut would achieve near half and half.
Right.
But it would never even have occurred to me to try to cut an avocado that
I
way.
should note my life has not appreciably gotten better by doing it the opposite way, But
So wait, and then you take your mouth?
and then throw it in the thing.
That is a level of savagery that I did not think you still possessed in your dotage.
How else do you do it? I don't.
So I do it in a spectacularly
with the
dangerous
knife.
fashion, which I understand is ill-advised. But like similar to your mother's admonition that like you might accidentally swallow that fucking giant avocado pit and end yourself.
Yeah.
I've long thought every time I cut an avocado, and I do it the humane way, the correct way, I cut it long ways, and I just twist the two halves, and they come apart. It's sort of like a wishbone. You're not sure which end is going to end up with the avocado pit in it, but always one end does. And then I hold the avocado in my hand, pit up, and I take my chef's knife, and I very dangerously pop the knife
That's
into
what you're supposed to do.
the pit.
That's
and
how
then
you do it.
twist. Yes, but here I am taking the sharpest object in
Okay.
our house
Well, what
and
you should
slamming
do-
it with some force
You're
into my
supposed to
open palm.
hold it in a
which is
towel.
So stupid. No, what you should do is not.
No, that's exactly what you're supposed to do. You're just supposed to do it in a towel.
Yeah. Anyway, it's what I do, and every time I do it, I think this is going to be so stupid when I give myself a dramatic open wound on my hand like an idiot. Even though I know in the moment that I'm doing it, here I am about to cut my hand open, right? Like, and I will know immediately when I've done the thing, you fucking idiot. Yeah. Like you were just saying you're going to do this. Find a smarter way of approaching this problem.
You never cut yourself though doing that. So,
No, not yet.
Yeah.
But like, just because I make it to the end of life without having sliced my hand open in that particular fashion doesn't mean that it was the right way of going about this process.
How did they say it in basketball? Ball don't lie. If you don't get cut, you've done it the right way. What do you mean?
Yeah. Speaking of, the avocado crop is good again, apparently. For the last like year or two or longer,
We've had shitty avocados.
the avocados at Costco have been like $11 for 6. Because they come in these bags of 6. And I used to buy avocados all the time because you get a bag of 6 for like $4 at Costco back in the day. The last couple years, they've been outrageous. And worse than that, consistently no good. And this was always, you're always sort of like living dangerously when you buy a handful of avocados.
Yeah, because when you buy them by the bag, you can't squeeze them or know.
Well, you can sort of know.
You can try.
And
but
an
you
unripe
can't really.
avocado will not tell you anything about how that avocado is going to turn out.
That's the
right?
other thing.
Like that's the thing is this you're gambling every time you buy a pile of avocados because sometimes they just suck and there's nothing that you can do about it. And consistently the last few years, I feel like the avocado has been not great. However, price goes down at Costco back to I think it was $4.99 for a pack of 6.
Backwards tariffs?
And I was like, oh, fuck, we're back to reasonable prices here. Maybe it's time to check out the avocados again. 3 bags in a row, 5 out of 6 avocados have been very, very good. I don't know what that means.
Look at that, yeah.
But I'm excited for it. What the fuck are we doing here? What are we... o'clock.
Yeah, it's 10 o'clock. I don't know why we're doing this. There's nothing to talk about.
Oh, there's so much to talk about.
There isn't.
Let's give the people a quick one here. And I mean that sincerely. Just get off good ones and be done here. Here we are, Abe, Cast Iron Brains, a podcast about avocados and stuff. My name is Bob, sitting across the way from my good friend and co-host. That's Abe. How you doing tonight, Abe?
Doing well, Bob.
Yeah, here we are. Lori's here too. How you doing tonight, Lori?
I'm fine.
Lori's fine. Tonight is Monday, September 8th, 2025. Speaking of the grocery store and whatnot, I just finished eating a delicious Oreo cookie. It's an Oreo and Reese's joint venture where
It's fine.
created an Oreo cookie that has Reese's peanut butter filling as the filling, as the middle part of the scenario there. Here's what I like about this cookie is that it was a long time coming. That part I did not like. Seemed like for half the summer I was getting Google news feed alerts about how the Oreos Reese's marriage that you've been waiting for your entire life, you fucking pathetic loser, is finally coming to the grocery store shelf near you. And I must acknowledge, as if the fact of this Google News story constantly showing up in my feed was not condemnatory enough, I must acknowledge this was relevant to my interests. As someone who will always buy...
We love the specialty Oreos.
The bullshit specialty Oreo that is new this month. The Selena Gomez Oreo was fucking spectacular. Probably their best one.
They had them. I bought some at Walmart. I didn't realize you wanted me to buy some. I bought them for Julia.
There are more Selena Gomez Oreos still out in the wild?
Yeah, they're at Walmart.
I didn't know that. I thought they were
You can go to Walmart to get some blue Gatorade for baseball this week.
Anyway, occasionally I will have a weirdo Oreo that does not speak to me. And usually that's because it is in the uncanny valley, sort of like of AI slop, which is that it tastes like the thing that it's trying to mimic almost too much, right? And it's like this weird, like, how did you find the essence of apple pie a la mode and turn it into a weird chemical compound that you then injected into these cookies that made them taste like that thing, but also as though it was created in the Star Trek matter generator thing, right? Like this is just not quite right. There's something wrong going on here. What I am very appreciative of as a cookie consumer is that the Oreos Reese's collab, it just tastes like a normal cookie. Like
it tastes a lot like a Nutter Butter.
It just tastes more or less correct, as though this were a cookie that had always existed. And it's not a spectacular offering, but it is a very solid offering. Like it's a very B+ cookie effort, and that's all you can ask for here out of your weirdo marketing ploys that are designed to get you to buy an Oreo when you're not a regular Oreo buyer. Never do I buy a regular old pack of double stuffs or Oreo cookies anymore.
The mint are pretty regular at this point.
Yeah, if it's been a few
weeks, and the
weeks,
peanut butter ones.
If it's been a while and we haven't had Oreos in the house and they haven't come out with something new and interesting to try, I will default to either the Oreo thin mint ones, which if you have low self-control, don't get them. Because you can eat a sleeve of those Oreo mint thins in like fucking 8 minutes, and you won't even feel it.
I can do that with any size Oreo.
And then the other peanut butter ones are good too. But these cookies, they're just good cookies. They're just like what you would expect them to be.
Can we talk about the Doritos?
I mean, by all means.
Are these products readily available like at Kroger if you don't have like a...
So, no, sometimes.
Well, first, on the Oreo front, I got the last pack of the Oreo Reese's cookies that Wegmans had in their first shipment, or maybe it was even their second shipment that I got the last pack of. They sold out of the first batch quick, didn't get one. Got one from the second batch. And so, yeah, this is apparently trial run.
Limited edition.
A limited edition. My understanding is that this is going to become a permanent addition to your grocery store shelves sometime in 2026. But if you want to try them this fall, you got to get moving and find one in the next couple weeks. Apparently, though, yeah, you can find it at grocery stores everywhere. On the other hand, Lori's Doritos that she was excited about.
I was at work. There's too many fucking people there. So there's food everywhere. And I had noticed a bag of Doritos. So the rule at work is if it's on the white table, it's free for all.
Okay.
Which, don't put something there if you don't want to share it. But also, if you're trying to get rid of food, just put it there. Someone will eat it. There's too many people. So I had noticed the bag of Doritos not on the table, which is to say don't eat them. I didn't even think of them. They were just over there. And then later in the night, on the white table, on a paper towel, like, someone had dumped them out to here, have some. And I ate one. I was like, whoa.
Oh.
What's this?
Immediate reaction.
And they were like,
wow.
It's those Korean barbecue hot Doritos. And I was like, well, that is fucking fantastic.
Flamin' hot
it
Korean.
says flamin' hot on the bag. They're not flamin' hot. They're just very good.
They're sneaky hot, though. Like, you eat 2 or 3 of them, and then, like, 30 seconds later...
Oh, it's one of those. The delay...
Not in the mouth.
No, they're
but, like,
really good.
Deep in the throat, you catch a tickle of, like, oh, there's the flamin' hot powder. And it was, like, living way back here in the back of the throat.
They're just
Sneaks up on you.
perfectly spicy and sweet.
They're okay. There's something... So there's another Doritos flavor that we tried a few months ago. It's like barbecue Doritos.
I didn't like those.
And there's an undercurrent of that chip in the chip that you're so excited about.
Yeah, they covered it up with something.
Yeah, but they covered it up with
Doritos.
Korean and Flamin' Hot or something.
It's like soy sauce or something. It's really good. But I couldn't get them. I had to go all the way to fucking Walmart.
Yeah, they don't sell them at fancy grocery store like Wegmans. They're only at among the people at Walmart apparently. Anyway, I guess we're talking about grocery stores.
It's really all there is to talk about.
I was at Wegmans the other day, and I was struck by this photograph that I took. Well, I wasn't struck by the photograph. I took a photograph of the display, which struck me. When I was a kid, back in the day, there were 2 Goldfish.
Mm-hmm. Holy shit.
There was the original Goldfish cracker, and then there was the cheddar Goldfish cracker.
It's stupid. And like the
Both-
thing is,
both
so
of them
many
are
of these aren't
spectacular.
even goldfish.
Spectacular offerings, the Goldfish cracker is. I know everybody thinks it's sort of like Cheerios. Oh, you get Cheerios for
they're
a
not good.
baby, right? You get Goldfish crackers for a baby.
Yeah.
No, I disagree. Goldfish
I mean, this awesome sauce one looks tryable.
is a wonderful cracker offering. In this one display, we've got Goldfish pretzels. We've got Goldfish mega sharp cheddar, which are like these oversized Goldfish. We've got Red Hot. We've got Parmesan and whole grain and mega cheddar jalapeno and a mix of cheddar and pretzel. There's a vanilla cupcake graham.
So none of the sweet ones count because they're just Teddy Grahams.
There's flavor blasted extra cheesy pizza and spicy dill pickle and like strawberry shortcake and whatever awesome sauce is. It sounds like a trick. And flavor blasted cheddars and Minions goldfishes. And what the fuck are we doing here?
This is a
Pepperidge
remarkable picture. You know, it's interesting. You know, shelf placement, from what I gather, is very important when it comes to grocery stores. Look where they have the original. Like, total disrespect.
Total afterthought. And my guess is that the cheddar goldfish outsells the original goldfish. I think cheddar is probably the most popular goldfish offering. I still think, pound for pound, the original is the best, which I think is a controversial take.
I don't like any of them.
Boy, this is overwhelming. There's way too many varieties. Holy shit.
Anyway, in our bogus future, there's Too many goldfish and not enough democracy. All right, let's quickly, and I mean this sincerely, we're just going to go fast because I think that if I dwell too much on the things that I wanted to talk about tonight, it will just be a bummer for everyone.
How is that different from literally any other night?
I don't know. This is my way of saying we're going to be up until midnight. No. Something happened, I think towards the end of last week, which was, I know that in the era of the trumpeting, everything can seem like an emergency, and therefore nothing really seems like an emergency, right? The all stakes, no consequences life that we now all live. But the destruction of a boat, is this off the coast of Venezuela or something? It was a Venezuelan drug smuggling boat, apparently. And 11 people were killed. It was downed by the U.S. military in some form or fashion. BBC headline, U.S. strike on Venezuela drug boat. President Donald Trump announced on Tuesday that U.S. forces destroyed a vessel which he said had departed from Venezuela. He said the boat was operated by the Tren de Aragua cartel and was carrying drugs bound for the U.S. So U.S. military forces kill 11 alleged or claimed by the administration drug traffickers, stopping them from delivering their payload to the U.S., I suppose. And this was celebrated largely, certainly by Trump and his administration, as a great success, as something that they were particularly proud of.
They were.
And to me, was one of the most singularly horrifying displays of American power by an American president that I can think of in the last little while being since I've been politically conscious, I suppose. And I mean that sincerely. And I find this to be more troubling than the Iraq War. And that probably sounds crazy, right? Yeah. But I find this to be troubling on the same level as what I found troubling about Barack Obama's drone warfare strategy. And at least that had a little bit more to it, right? Like, but the idea of Obama and his kill list, right? And the what I see as the extrajudicial killing of an American citizen via drone that Obama gave the go-ahead to. And really, almost any of those drone killings I found to be distasteful. But this in particular, because of the way it smacks of the campaign rhetoric that he was using back in the 2016 campaign, where he was talking about how good it was in the Philippines that people were going out and like, you just find a drug dealer and you kill them, right? Like what the government should be doing is executing all of the drug dealers, and then you won't have a drug dealer problem anymore. Marco Rubio, who said the following: the president is very clear that he's going to use the full power of America, the full might of the United States to take on and eradicate these drug cartels, no matter where they're operating from and no matter how long they've been able to act with impunity, said Secretary of State Marco Rubio before boarding a plane in Florida to head to Mexico. It's super fucking weird to me that a president would be permitted to order the extrajudicial killing of 11 people on a boat in the Caribbean Sea, and the administration would celebrate it as a just act, as something that is good for America because there are 11 fewer drug terrorists out there in the world, with no process whatsoever, right? We have to rely on the idea that Donald Trump received good intelligence about who exactly was on this boat and what precisely was their motive and their destination, and that any other action would not be up to the task of preventing whatever it is that they're trying to prevent, right? Like, and to me, this is just cold-blooded murder. And I know that it probably sounds crazy when I say I think this is worse than the Iraq War. But like the Iraq War had the machinery of the entire U.S. government behind trying to get it going, right? Trying to go before the United Nations and say, here are all of the reasons why it's not acceptable that Saddam Hussein remain in power, right? And it was sold to us. And in part, it was like with the imprimatur of the media as well, right? And that's something that gets lost years down the road. But like, how upset really was the New York Times in 2002, 2003 about the potential for an Iraq war? Not so upset, right? They were just reporting on what the administration wanted them to report on. And maybe that it's not fair in terms of the total amount of life lost, right? Like if you're just doing the utilitarian calculus here about what caused more damage long term to humanity, then yes, obviously, if it's 250,000 or 1 million Iraqi civilians who died as a result of our actions, it's nightmarish in either direction, right? And if it's whatever the number is, 4,000 or something, fewer than 5,000, I think, U.S. soldiers died in Iraq as a result of all of that. And that's an incalculable human loss, right? And now I'm just talking about 11 potential drug smugglers in the Caribbean, and who gives a flying fuck. But like, if I'm talking about the deployment of completely unaccountable power outside of the bounds of any reasonable legal standard, this is more terrifying to me. And like, this is the sort of thing that because it comes with none of the sort of collective force of the will of a country, right? Instead, it's just this one asshole saying, I'm going to drop a bomb on these 11 people because I've decided that they shouldn't fucking live anymore. And like, go ahead. Tell me I'm fucking crazy for being more sort of morally offended by this than something that obviously caused much more human suffering in the long run.
Well, not to compare it to anything else, just on its own, I find it troubling. For some reason, it didn't strike me in the same way as it did you. Like, it just seemed like a very random act of violence. Like, we've gone, 50 years in the a failed war on drugs. Billions, upwards of $1 trillion was spent on it. It has not proven successful. You can't kill your way out of this problem. The demand is going to persist. And so, like, let's accept the argument that these people were in fact transporting drugs, right? Wasn't there some reporting casting doubt on that, like whether or not this is actually what was happening?
Yeah, but I think that's a loser's game anyway.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So setting that aside,
by virtue of raising the question, you have now allowed in the possibility that in fact they were drug smugglers, and if they were, now you've given the permission structure to say,
no, that's true.
Well, that conversation is solved. They were drug smugglers, so fuck off. Like they deserve to die.
But accepting that they were drug smugglers, like what is what does he think, the president and those around him?
I would like to accept that they are pedophile, rapist, murderers. Right? That is, I will grant you that they were the worst possible imaginable human beings on that boat, and it was still a horrifying display of unaccountable power that should not be countenanced. Right? Like, that's how far I'm willing to go.
But the thing is, like, okay,
in terms of granting things,
the president is the obviously commander-in-chief. He's got the immunity powers that was resolved in the Supreme Court, right? So he's got like some wiggle room here. If he deems something a threat, similar to like past presidents, like with Obama with the drone strikes, where you can define it how you want. Like, if you're a militant because you're of military age, you're like 12 years old and up, and if you're a male, you're fair game. Like, you could be like at a wedding and get blown to smithereens, and that's that, right? Like, I think this would be something along those lines, where like you are the decider, you're the judge and the executioner all at once as the president, and this seems to be like a thing that presidents are allowed to do for some reason. I just don't see where this is going to prevent.
Do you see this as not different in character than the assassination of Soleimani, for example? That was another successful and lauded thing from the first Trump administration?
No, because this is like not even like pissing in a wall. It is totally ineffective. The people that are in drug world, they face the prospect of death all the time, right? So it's not like you're going to deter the next batch of people. The demand is there, money can be made, and this is not going to stop the flow of shipment. It's not going to do anything. It's just a pointless exercise in power. Like, I can kill these people, so I'm going to do it. But this is not going to prevent drugs from coming into this country. Like, not at all.
I think that on principle, I'm absolutely correct to be horrified here. Obviously, I think that. Further, I'm made nervous by the particulars of this because it is actually kind of out of character for Donald Trump to do something like this and to deploy power in this way where the end result is 11 dead humans. This is a squeamish dude, actually, when it comes to this sort of violence. He had to be convinced to act against Soleimani and to deploy American force in warlike fashion in the past.
Right.
And this is such, because it's such small bore stuff, because the impact of it is, as you're saying, going to be a drop in the bucket, going to be entirely negligible in terms of stopping the flow of anything, in terms of stopping harm to drug users, right? Like, it's not going to convince end users. All it's going to do is cost them more money,
right?
Like, right. All you've done is put a small dent in the available market in terms of the supply of drugs, and therefore cost them more money to support their habit. So, like, because it's so small in its impact, except for the way that it plays in the media and the way it neatly folds into the rhetoric out of the administration about we're now the Department of War rather than the Department of Defense, right?
Yeah.
That we are this offensive force in the world to be reckoned with, and we don't just go out fighting these forever wars because we're just digging trenches and playing defense all the time. Instead, we're going out and actually doing work. This strikes me as something that's sort of new on the front of Trump's willingness to deploy violence against his rhetorical political enemies,
right?
In a way that is unpleasant.
Yeah.
Looking forward.
You know, I think you're right. There has been a shift because the book on Trump during his first term was that he was a bit squeamish. Maybe that's colored by the Iraq War, and then before that, the Vietnam War, where it's just like this just never-ending mess, you know, like he didn't want to be part of anything that can possibly lead to that. And so, like, he would always be, like, reticent when it came to, like, doing something militarily.
Because he's a faux tough guy. Because he's this fey New York businessman who thinks that he can play a tough guy on TV.
Right.
But he's not a physical or violent person. Like, and it was almost this weird, like, you were charmed by it almost, right? Like, yeah, he plays all of this this bombast nonsense on TV, but, like, he's not a guy who's going to punch you in the mouth. Right, because he's not actually a violent person. Now, if you're a woman, the violence might come across a little bit differently, according to various reports. But, like, in terms of the deployment of lethal force or even anything along those lines, like, he didn't ever come across that way.
Yeah, he was always, like, all bark, no bite kind of person. But something must have changed. I don't know if it's old age or whatever, but, like, the changing, rebranding, the Department of Defense, the Department of War. For many, many years before the 40s, it was called the Department of War. But after experiencing 2 world wars, people generally don't like wars. And so, like, you have to kind of, like, for PR reasons, change it. Like, we're only going to go to war in defense of our national interest, right? Basically, like, you always have to add that context. We're not on a war footing. We're only doing that as a last resort to defend ourselves. And so defense made more sense. It's kind of like a PR move, but it's a testament to his to Trump's perception that he has all this power. Because his behavior, it sounds like, what are you going to do about it, right? Like, I campaigned on being the peace guy, and I'm now naming this thing to war, right? So now I have a war secretary, I got a war this and a war that. Like, he's
Which all they're doing is changing the faceplate, right? And they can't actually legally do it because it requires an act of Congress to change the Department of Defense, right? Like he can say that it's now the Department of War, and he can call Pete Hegseth the Secretary of War,
right?
But like on the books officially, that won't change except by congressional action, which will not be forthcoming,
right? And but maybe this is like trying to bend reality to his will, kind of like with the golf issue, where like now more and more companies are like referring to it as how he wants it to be referred to. Like maybe he just like, I can just do whatever I want, and people won't have to, yield to me. Like this seems to be in keeping with that. But when it comes to like taking action against whatever, 11 people, he's probably not worried about what comes from that, unless like it was like a family that he killed and he got the intelligence wrong.
I do sincerely wonder, though, if it's not a degrading of his personal moral compass in some way. And I know that sounds crazy when I'm talking about Donald Trump, who is not someone that I would have traditionally associated or anyone would have talked about as having something like a moral compass that points anywhere in the correct direction.
Right.
But like, has he been hardened by the fact of the killing that is just a necessary part of being president, right?
Yeah.
And because he's such a bottom line person, because he's such a crabs in a bucket mentality sort of person, it's like, well, I like, what does it matter if I like? Because think about his interview with O'Reilly back early in his term, where he's talking about Putin, and he's like, and O'Reilly's like, Putin's a thug. He's a killer. He kills journalists. He throws people out of windows. And he's like, what, you think we're so innocent?
Right.
You think we don't do killing, that sort of thing? And then the reality of that, of 4 years of the first administration, where on his word, people died. Right? This is not someone who would ever have killed before, right? Like, this is not someone who has skeletons in the closet in that way. But like, now he's a fucking killer. And say what you will about how silly it is to call all U.S. presidents war criminals, right? But like, all of them, by the nature of the job, and like and it sounds easy for me to say sitting in my basement as a stay-at-home dad, but like, one of the reasons I wouldn't take the fucking job is because I don't think I have it in me to become a killer, right? And it's part of the drill, right? And it's a fact of the deployment of state power. The concentration of that much power means that it will be deployed righteously or unrighteously. Your job is to deploy power in a way that ends life. Right. And one wonders, like, you can tell yourself that you're doing it righteously over and over again, but at some point you put your head on your pillow and you have to be able to fall asleep, and you start to accept that you're just a killer now. Right? You think we're so innocent. So like, is it, and maybe it's too I'm taking it to places it doesn't belong, but like, in some like sad Shakespearean tragedy sort of way, if you paint him in the most sympathetic way possible as previously not a killer but now a killer, like, that sucks, right? And like from a human fall kind of perspective, I think that sucks.
I think that Trump's squeamishness, I don't think it had anything to do with like not to impugn him, but I don't think it had to do with the morality of killing people. It was more so like he didn't want to get bogged down into some sort of conflict he couldn't easily get out of, and so maybe he's
and I think like an ick,
yeah,
in the way that he like is a germaphobe,
yeah,
right,
yeah.
Like he's icked by the idea of killing.
Also, the it should be noted, like, the experience of a president, like that experience, like remember when Bin Laden was killed, like, Obama was like doing like a correspondence dinner kind of thingy, like it was like that weekend or like it was around the same time. So like, he's like has this plan in operation or like in the works while he's tending to some frivolous things, right? And so the president is not killing anybody, right? I mean, he's responsible for all the kills, but there's a distance. And it's easier for you to take action when you're not faced with the consequence of, like, the button. Like, you just say, like, do the thing, and then you move on to the next thing on your schedule, and then they tell you like it was a successful thing, and they use deflecting language, like we neutralized the threat, like whatever word that people use to kind of say like, oh, it was fine, like we killed 11 people, but like they were a threat, imminent threat. Dress it up how you want, and now they're no longer posing a threat, and so like it's easier to kind of like accept the actions. But like it's not like he's going there like shanking people. Like so he can be squeamish from afar and still order the strike. And
it's just go ahead.
And also like there's also the coverage aspect of it. Like in past moments where there was like an attack, like I think the coverage, especially like on the channels he watches, was like wall-to-wall coverage and positive, like, oh, this was a strong message, blah, blah, blah. So he kind of sees like, oh, okay, I can get like some positive feedback by taking these actions. So I don't know if that's encouraging him to do this even more, but like, yeah, there has definitely been a shift.
It would have been trivially easy for the United States military to dispatch these people in a legal way, in a way that is in keeping with normal sort of human rights standards, which is you arrest them, you board the boat, you arrest them, you confiscate whatever bullshit they have. Maybe you make a big show of ripping open the bags of heroin or meth or whatever the fuck it is that they had on the boat and dumping it into the ocean so all the fucking fishes can get super high. But like, it would have been trivially easy. And then, and like even, I mean, this is an administration that has no compunction about taking people who don't belong in El Salvadoran nightmare prisons and putting them there. It would have been trivially easy to say, look at these 11 drug smuggling terrorists on this boat. Right. We have dispatched them to a bad prison somewhere after going through some sort of legal process.
Right.
But to do this completely outside the bounds of any, again, like it just goes to my day one complaint about Trump and this administration, which is the utter lawlessness with which they're operating. And this is like, I don't know, maybe I'm being naive and too precious here, but it feels like something that it feels different than a lot of the other stuff. And it wasn't treated as such.
Yeah.
In the news media, it was treated as just another Trumpist display of Trump being awful, I suppose, on the one side of the media aisle there, but not as anything in particular scary or worse than anything else that he's done.
Do you think this was a one-off, or will we see more of these sort of calls to kill just random boats and claim that it was some sort of like menacing like threat from Venezuela?
I mean, he's apparently signed orders telling the United States military to use force in this way against drug targets. So I assume that we're going to see more of this in the months to come. And again, it's like one of those sort of perfect victims scenarios where anybody who dies as a result of this sort of action is likely going to be a bad guy, right? Like, and so anyone who's upset about Trump dispatching them in this fashion is going to be seen as on the wrong side of the crime question.
Right.
And the Democrats are reliably really good at appearing on the wrong side of the crime question with all of their commitment to strict legal processes, right? And their complaints about civil rights and all of that stuff. And it's super easy to be mad at the drug smugglers and terrorists, I suppose, and not worry about their rights before international courts or anything else. But it's such a fucking cliche at this point. But like, do you really want someone else who you don't like having the ability to deploy that sort of unaccountable power? Right. Like, do you think that the next person is going to have the same political project that you do? It seems unlikely.
Right. But also, like, this is not politically advantageous necessarily, because it's not, again, you're not going to see like this action followed up with like some chart showing that the number of, I don't know, like cocaine use and drug use and whatever has gone down because of the strike.
I'm sure you could get a chart made.
Right. Maybe we can create one. But like, there isn't like that, like, hey, look, the numbers are down because I did a thing. Like, the numbers are going to be what they're going to be. Like, many different things have been tried to stop it. People have this insatiable appetite for drugs.
It's flat out sort of terrifying to me that this action will have no impact on his support.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
How are we to that point where he is completely, like, I could go out onto Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody in broad daylight and I wouldn't lose a single voter. He just did that, right? And he proudly did that. And I know that because it's not just a rando on Fifth Avenue and instead it's a faceless Venezuelan drug smuggler, that we're supposed to be like fine with it or be proud of him for having done it. But like, that's what he just did. And he's right. People will defend him for the unaccountable murder of 11 people on a boat in the Caribbean that did not need to happen.
Right.
That flat out did not need to happen.
You know, I don't have any numbers. I would be making it up. But there's a sizable chunk of the population, and it's not necessarily just on one side, that is comfortable with bad things happening to bad people. So the only thing you need to do is be convincing enough to say that these were bad people. So if you can win that argument, then what happens to them is you can tolerate. So if they get blown to smithereens, well, they were bad people, and that's fine. So like, as long as it can make a compelling case that it's not like, oh, that some Australian family of 11 that we screwed that up. That would not go over well. But if you can convince people that these people were trafficking in drugs, and I'm sure you have somebody in your family that struggles with drugs, like they played a role in that. Like your nephew died from an overdose like 10 years ago. It's because of these fucking people, right? And I killed them, and maybe this will put a stop to it. So like, I think if you can convince people that bad people are getting it, it's fine. That's why, like, prisons are in the shape that they are. Well, fuck you. It doesn't matter if you get occasionally shivved because you did something to warrant being sent to prison. And so I think that it's an uphill kind of task to kind of get people to care about people that have been designated as bad people.
Yeah. I don't think that you have to care about... I don't care about the people who were killed. Like, I have no... I'm not going to pretend to have...
Yeah, but you're just all principle all the time. That's not how most people are.
No, it's not just principle, right? I don't think that you can discount the moral injury to the person who does the brutalizing impact on the individual who does the moral injury to himself, right? Like, and I know that maybe if you want to say that that's just another way of me complaining about the principle of the thing, then you might be right. But when you put, well, whatever, I don't have to keep restating it. And just briefly on the rebranding thing again, which I'm sure I was very busy with Little League nonsense this weekend, and so I didn't get a chance to read very much, but I imagine it birthed 1,000 annoying think pieces, the changing of the Department of Defense to the Department of War. But the fact that it is always couched in the same stuff, like, we're going to become the Department of War in order to deliver more peace, which is just directly from 1984.
Right. Yeah.
Right? Like literally.
Right.
It's double think and double speak, and like, what does that mean that half of the country, and maybe it's too precious again to complain about half of the country living with contradictory ideas in their head and that being their reality, right? Like, to worry about living in a state where people sincerely believe, or at least sincerely profess to believe, that war is peace, right? That war is what gives us peace. I suppose from the other side, not that you always have to play this sort of a game, but from the other side, it's not far afield from the cognitive dissonance of the left in terms of all of the social stuff, right? That like, no, men are women. No, it's fine that a person says that I'm a different gender or sex than I was born with, or I mean, any of a number of other so-called woke ideologies that people live with that are simply contradictions of known reality for a social purpose, right? And you can go crazy places with it, I suppose, but like there are ways in which people who are of the left live with complete and total contradictions because they don't like the implication of reality, right? And now you have in power a president and a United States Congress that says war is peace, that says that the thing that gives us strength and peace is the deployment of completely unaccountable power. And that's like, I don't know. It's fucking scary to me. It's unpleasant to imagine that that's the country that that's the world I'm sharing with all of the people around me.
I think my assessment is that people like make one decision and then they tune everything else out. So like, I trust my guy or he's on my team and like whatever. Like, so I think if you're a Trump person, like your calculation is that this person is on your side in the interest of whatever you're interested in. And so like, if he does something, like you kind of do the benefit of the doubt thing. So like the way that this is being perceived is like, oh, who cares? Like the same people that were a year ago saying like he's the peace person and the other side is not or whatever. Like there's no like there's no issue there. It's just like I trust this guy. He knows what he's doing, and I don't want to think about every decision he makes. Now, if he were to say like we need to invade Venezuela, like he would then shed support, I imagine, because there are still a good number of people that are Trump people that are not into war. You know, the isolationism and like America this and that. Like so, if he actually did something with this rebrand, like to declare war on somebody or try to do something in that fashion, then it won't go over. But like name change, people will just tune that out. They won't care.
Yeah. All right. It is getting late, and I said that we would go about this quickly. I will therefore refrain from a conversation about what the senator from Missouri, Eric Schmitt, a speech that he gave at the National Conservatism Conference in D.C. Last week, I believe, in which he...
Yeah, you're not refraining.
In which he laid bare a sort of white identity nationalism or national conservatism that is straight up terrifying. If it's not a terribly long speech. I didn't listen to it. I read it it was published in whole by something called the Daily Signal, which I don't know what that is exactly, but it is in some way related to the National Conservatism Conference, I believe. Did you read this or see any clips from it?
No. What was the thrust of his argument? This is like.
Oh, I thought we weren't talking about this.
The thrust of the argument is, or the statement, I don't know if we can call it an argument exactly, but basically that we're done apologizing for who we are, and who we are is not an idea. It is a discrete geographical and identitarian collection of people who are American not because of the things that they believe, but because of who our ancestors were. Specifically, our ancestors were people who forged the final earthen frontier, and by virtue of their determination and hardiness, they produced the most powerful nation on earth because they were fucking Scots-Irish hardos who came across in the 1840s and created the world that we benefit from today, and I'm not going to apologize for that fact any longer. It's a blood and soil speech directed at the future of Trumpism in the hopes of building a post-Trump future that is understood to be wildly proud of the fact that we conquered this land and stole it from the people that we stole it from. I'm not going to, right? Like effectively he's saying, to the victor go the spoils, and we won because we had better tools and we wanted to win more than the Indians did.
So a might is right kind of argument, and he is kind of like adding, is this like a white people thing? Like, cause, you know, like
He does not come out and say that, but by referencing his personal heritage and the
is
heritage
he like a
of
German sort? Like, where did his people come from?
Scots-Irish.
Okay,
I
Scott.
believe.
Because you know, like what is it? Like the Wasps, you know, the white Anglo-Saxon Protestant, and then you had like all the different waves of immigrants. Would he include in his group the Italians that came whenever they came in? And so like, where do you draw the line? It seems to be like, considering the demographics in America and then looking ahead over the next 20, 30 years, like that's not a very competitive argument in a democratic environment. Like, who are you winning over with that kind of argument?
He's saying that the project of America, as understood by the blob, right? The liberal project of America to bring. I mean, I'll just whatever. For too long, conservatives were content to serve as the right wing of the regime. They, too, waged foreign wars in the name of global liberalism and democracy. They, too, rewrote our trade policies in service of the interests of global capital. They, too, supported amnesty and mass migration. The Washington Consensus was a thoroughly bipartisan affair. It required the support of both party establishments to survive. Until Trump, the mainstream right quibbled over the left's means, but hardly ever challenged its ends. Conservatives cheered foreign intervention after foreign intervention, not to defend America's actual national interests, but to pursue the same fantasy of a world safe for democracy that the Wilsonian liberals have peddled for a century. For decades, the mainstream consensus on the left and the right alike seemed to be that America itself was just an idea, a vehicle for global liberalism. We were told that the entire meaning of America boiled down to a few lines in a poem on the Statue of Liberty and 5 words about equality in the Declaration of Independence. Any other aspect of American identity was deemed to be illegitimate and immoral, poisoned by the evils of our ancestors. The true meaning of America, they said, was liberalism, multiculturalism, and endless immigration, right? So he's saying, for too long, we have abided by the false notion that what makes America great is an idea, right? That America is not so much a place, as Bill Clinton said, but a promise. But then he's like, oh yeah? Come hang out with the people that I call my friends and tell me that it's not a people instead, right? Tell me that the idea is what matters rather than the actual people. Quote, if you imposed a carbon copy of the U.S. Constitution on Kazakhstan tomorrow, Kazakhstan wouldn't magically become America because Kazakhstan isn't filled with Americans, it's filled with Kazakhstanis. What makes America exceptional isn't just that we committed ourselves to the principles of self-government, it's that we as a people were actually capable of living them. He's saying that there's something unique to the American character, as he understands the American character to be the descendants of people who violently conquered the country. And that's not me saying it, that's him saying it, right? That is what produced the richest and most powerful country on the planet, and that we should be proud of that fact.
You know, it's interesting that the experience in America is undermining the argument that he's making, because like there are Kazakhs or Kazakhstanis in America who are leading a prosperous and successful American life, right? So basically you can have that. He's saying like you wouldn't take these words on a page and take them anywhere and anybody will become American. But like people are coming from everywhere, all corners of the globe, and they somehow seem to make it work. Like how did that happen?
If
it's starting to sound like it's a place.
If you find it to be intolerable, if you find our current world to be intolerable, and instead constantly refer back to an imagined time in the past when things were better, then you can hold those two contradictory ideas in your head at the same time, right? You can say, this is completely intolerable that all of these darkies have come here and ruined my country, He does not see
Right.
the success of those who have come here, right? What he sees is a degradation of the culture that has displaced his people from their rightful place.
Right. Seems like a lot of people. This fellow here seems like it sounds very emotional. Like at the root is like, you're not gonna make me feel bad. Like everything is constructed around like some feeling that he's like is being imposed on him by his whatever perceived political enemies. Like, you're not gonna make me feel bad about what happened in the past. Like, things happened and we're a sturdy sort, and fuck you. Like, he's like constantly reacting to some sort of feeling he has.
He's also imagining that the people who died fighting for this country, as he frames it, right, fighting in the Revolutionary War or on the frontier, did so out of some grand idea about what was to come, right? That they did so for their progeny on down the generational line, that he is the inheritor of the sacrifice of those people, not metaphorically, but literally, right? That they chose to die so that he might live. And that, to me, is true psycho stuff. Right. Is to imagine that the motivations of the people who died hundreds of years before you was to invent the world that you then got to inhabit, right? And that they did something that was purely noble, such that you special little boy, could come along and benefit. Rather than imagining that those were just people too, people who enlisted or were otherwise conscripted,
mostly just poor,
by virtue of their circumstance, to do things that were horrifying, right? To do violence and to try to scrape together a living for themselves. And many of whom died horrible deaths simply because they died before medicine happened.
Right.
Didn't evolve.
But this idea that somehow this was a noble group of people who were doing something such that we could live these lives of unimaginable plenty is crazy to me. Right. And it's religious in its fervor, obviously, and in the way that anything about anybody who believes in all of this manifest destiny shit, no doubt, is poisoned by religion in ways that I can't personally identify with. At least I don't think I can. They believed they were forging a nation, a homeland for themselves and their descendants. They fought, they bled, they struggled, they died for us. They built this country for us. America in all its glory is their gift to us, handed down across the generations. It belongs to us. It's our birthright, our heritage, our destiny. You know what, man? I don't think so. Right. I think they were just trying to figure shit out, right? And the grander the idea that they had about what they were doing is in direct proportion to how fucking crazy they were. Right. All right? Like, period.
Or just desperate.
And the idea that somehow you have ownership of this country because of the sacrifice of people who died hundreds of years ago is also crazy stuff, right? I don't know.
But I guess this goes to this myth making, like, he's trying to create this like narrative, like a through line to say like we were good actually for doing the things that people say is bad, because it led to me being a senator from
who
this
the
state.
fuck is we?
Yeah.
Like, and that's like it's not you, man.
Right. Yeah.
Like, it just it speaks to a weird sense of collectivism that I thought didn't have a place in the hard scrabble Republican notion of who the fuck is we, right? America is not a universal nation. It is something distinctive, unique, and real, unlike any other place or people in the history of mankind. Western civilization was defined by its restless, relentless, dynamic spirit, a drive to create, explore, and discover that spurred the West to heights of political, intellectual, and technological achievement unmatched by any other civilization in human history. America was settled, founded, and built by the most adventurous, the most courageous, the most curious, and innovative and risk-taking sons and daughters of the West. This is pure, hard-boiled Nazi shit. And I don't say that lightly.
Right.
And the Nazi shit gets thrown around way too easily. But like he goes on to say, this, my friends, is why every great feat of the modern world bore American fingerprints. Right. He in order to justify all of the things that he acknowledges were done, the fruits of that awful violent behavior must be a result of that violent behavior rather than simply a circumstance that resulted also.
Right.
It must be causal,
Right.
or else it wasn't worth it, right? Is sort of what he's getting at here.
It's a pretty implausible argument. Also, you know, America, like I always say, is a software country and not like a hardware country. Like it's like you can boot this software on different types of hardware. You can come from wherever. I mean, a lot of the, like, I mean, we're Steve Jobs, if you go back a generation or two, it's like, what, like, where the hell is he from? Like Syria or something? You can go back a generation or two and somebody's family came from Germany or South America somewhere, and then they came into this system and they went through the process and they became something, and they're Americans, and it's to the credit of America. But to me, like, who is this intended for? It seems like there are like these separate, these weird like fringe groups like in eastern Idaho who are, you know, living this weird life where they're trying to stitch together like a white identity in America, which doesn't really, I mean, if you were to get rid of all other groups, right? Then you would have these differences. Like, you know, people from Northern Europe are not the same as people from Southern Europe or Eastern Europe. Like, then you'll discover new friction points. Like, people always will find some inner sort, you know, like no matter what, you're not going to be happy. Like, this guy didn't seem like a happy person. Like, it'll never be enough. You'll never be enough for this guy.
And it infuriates and offends me on such a fundamental level because it speaks directly to who is it that I'm sharing my country with, right? Like, I've just been wrong about what I thought mattered to my fellow American about this country, right? To him, what matters is his Scots-Irish heritage and the fact that they were a hard-scrapple people who built out the frontier of this country and tamed the land and provided a place for all of the bloodsuckers, apparently, who are the rest of the immigrants who followed. Right. How does it not occur to him that the people who came here in the 20th century or in the late 20th century even, right, my dear friend and co-host Abe, for example, like, you don't get to this fucking asshole doesn't get to define what is or is not a true American, right? And like, he's what he's saying is what a true American is a person who is a descendant of the frontier and nobody else fucking counts. Right. And like, it's just not the world that we're living in. And like, it would be one thing to be able to brush it off because it's from fucking 4chan, or because it's from Stormfront, or because it's from weird talk radio that nobody listens to. But it's not. It's a United States senator from the great state of Missouri, right?
From the okay state of Missouri.
What the fuck are we doing here? That this is the sort of thing that is spoken aloud by a United States senator. Right. And it's fucking bonkers.
And he won't lose support because of it either.
The opposite. Right? I mean, certainly the opposite.
Well, that was a good non-talk.
Yeah. To me, it does tie directly into this stuff from earlier because it is
it's not for nothing that it's a bunch of brown people that got murdered and not white people.
It is seemingly where Trumpism wants to go when you start to acknowledge that Trump will not live forever, right? Like, this is where J.D. Vance is going to take things. It's where he tried to take things in 2020 with the eating the cats and eating the dogs stuff, right? Like, the reason that Trump said those things...
That was 2024.
Right. The reason that Trump was on about immigrants eating cats and dogs was at the urging, essentially, of... It was Vance who injected that into our conversation, right? And it's going to go in one of two ways. And right now, it's Rubio or Vance, right? And Rubio wants to take it more in the direction of a more muscular and less apologetic version of who Marco Rubio has always been, right? Which is, oh, we're done being polite here about American violent ends in the world. We're going to stand up for ourselves and for our people. Vance is going to make a much more purely social and race-based, essentially.
I don't know. That guy's got an Indian wife.
Yeah, it's such an incoherent position to take, especially after the 2024 results. Like, Trump made gains in so many different demographic groups. So, like, and there's been this charge of, like, this is like a racist kind of movement, and then people are like, no, I don't believe that. They're just going after the bad people. And then you have the experience of this year and going into next year. It seems like, why would you take on this issue that would be divisive to your base?
Because Schmitt, the senator from Missouri, would say, if we confronted him with you, for example, or you confront him with any of a million other examples, he would acknowledge in the moment, well, of course I don't mean everyone, right? Like, imagine the frontier spirit of the Allens 40 years ago when they're traipsing across Europe in search of a better life for themselves, right? And then they come to Canada and then on to the United States, right? Like he would be happy to tell your story as an example of the thing that he's referring to at the same time that he is also playing directly into the Scots-Irish fucking bullshit that he wants to play into, right?
But,
he will always grant that. And because he will always grant the exception to the rule, the 1% of the 1%, he believes that's the out. And that is the out that the minorities who are within the movement will grant him, right? Will latch onto themselves. I don't think that it is completely impossible to imagine a multiracial coalition that essentially makes a white nationalist argument for America.
That to me is the most implausible thing. I mean, I don't think you're wrong, but like, to me, like, you wouldn't want that to be front and center because, again, the gains that you made, especially like in the Hispanic demographic in places like Texas, like that's a big must-win state, and it's moved to, it's been reliably red. There's always been this talk about eventually it'll become a purple state. We'll see if that ever actually comes to fruition. But like making this sort of point about like who is the real American is going to rub people the wrong way. The indiscriminate like arrest and mistreatment of people because they spoke Spanish, like that's like proof enough that there's something the matter with you. Like that sort of stuff is going to backfire politically. And it doesn't make sense to me why you would pursue that.
I hope so. The problem is that I don't trust the Democrats to offer a plausible alternative.
Right, but I think
it will not be enough that we are so collectively offended by this other shit that we will just default to whatever fucking sorry sack of shit they present to us next time.
Right,
like
but the thing
it worked with Joe Biden. Right. I don't know that it's going to work with anybody else.
The third choice is always staying home, though. So you run the risk of
you run the risk of completely delegitimizing every institution that makes the country go. Yes.
Right, but I mean, people were motivated to show up for Trump, right? Like, but will they be motivated to show up for like people who lack whatever he has, and they're peddling whatever stuff that they don't care about? Like, to me, like it seems like
I'm just trying to imagine the shape of Trumpism minus Trump, and this to me, Eric Schmitt's speech here, and the way that I've heard J.D. Vance talk about this similar stuff in the past tells me that that is sort of a plausible direction that they're going to try to take it once Trump is forced to leave the stage.
Right.
And it feels bad, obviously. It's also what I'm saying. Anyway, I'll make sure there's a link, obviously, to this speech in the show note if anybody wants to read it in whole. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe it's just red meat for the crowd at a conference that certainly wouldn't invite me if I asked for an invitation. But maybe it's something. Who knows? We're only an hour and 20 in here. This is going to be a short one, like I promised. You've been listening to Cast Iron Brains, a podcast with Bob and Abe. Find the show on Substack, brainiron.substack.com, where there's always plenty more from us. The opening and closing themes of the show are composed by Mark Gillig, tetramermusic.com, Tetramer music.com. For more from Mark. Abe, did you make it to the movies this week?
So, not a lot of options in the theaters this weekend. There was
The Conjuring 47 or something?
Conjuring 47 has a lot of legs. $84 million this weekend.
Wow.
Remarkable. There was literally nothing else that was available. I maybe seen one of those Conjuring things, but had zero interest in that. So, I have a television at home. I was like, this TV, here, streaming services. Funny you should mention the Iraq War from earlier. I watched Matt Damon's Green Zone, which came out in 2010. It was about the Iraq War.
It's a bad time for me to suggest that the killing of 11 folks in a boat in the Caribbean is
They'll
worse
make a
than the
movie
Iraq
later.
War.
Yeah, but what's interesting about it is this is one of those movies where I may have seen it, but I forgot about it, so it's new to me. Things, but basically, it's Matt Damon. This is at the beginning of the Iraq War. He's thinking, we need to find these weapons of mass destruction. This is the pursuit that he's after, and then he's slowly coming to realize that the intelligence that they're getting, that hey, it's stashed over there. They would go there. There's nothing, and this would repeat. And what the fuck? This data is fucked up. We're not getting anywhere. Where are the weapons that made this war necessary, right?
Yeah.
And so he's facing resistance by the higher ups. We need to keep the story going that there were weapons, and Matt Damon being the hero, he figures out that there isn't anything, so he leaks the information to the press, and that's kind of how the movie ends, as if this is gonna have some impact. And this is 15 years on since the movie came out. The Iraq War has just kind of come off the books, right? Because there isn't any responsible party anymore for it. Once Trump delinked the Republican Party from the Bush years,
Right.
That's now off the table. It's like some sort of, it's like with a collection agency somewhere. No one owns the debt anymore. It's just there. Who knows what happened? And no one really talks about it. No lessons were learned. It's just here we are.
It helps a great deal, and I don't want to diminish the lives lost, but I was reading that speech that we just talked a lot about, the Schmitt speech at the National Conservative Conference. I was compelled to look up how many people died in America's wars since World War II. And so I refamiliarized myself with the fact that fewer than 5,000 American soldiers died in the Iraq War. Fewer than 3,000, I think, American soldiers have died in Afghanistan in total in 20 fucking years. Yeah. It's a very small number.
But Vietnam was 58,000, right? So that's the big one.
That's the big one, and it's also way smaller than what happened in World War II and World War I. Schmitt says in his speech, they were the Americans whose factories were gutted in the name of free trade, whose sons were sent to die in wars that served no American interest, whose neighborhoods were transformed beyond recognition by immigration. And he's talking about essentially post-Vietnam.
Yeah.
The impact of the deaths on the American psyche is nothing, right? The worst of it is we have these people coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan who are psychologically scarred.
Yeah.
And so the suicide rate remains stubbornly high among those who fought in those wars. But in terms of pure raw human elimination, it was fairly minimal.
Right.
And so it is easy, in fact, if you no longer claim it as part of your ideological project, to forget about it. And it's probably shameful, obviously. But the true human cost was not one that was borne by America. It's not how we fight wars anymore.
But what's interesting, after, I wasn't alive for the Vietnam War, but in the decades after, there were a bunch of depictions of the war in film and TV. There'd be characters who were Vietnam vets, and you would kind of follow them around. the Iraq War didn't seem to have like a lasting impact on just how it's covered now. There's not a lot of looking back to that period because it
There
kind
was
of
the Hurt Locker.
yeah, there was a hurt, but all of those things are like around this, like 2010, 2011. There was like a period, like in the last like 10 years, there's like no like, hey, you remember that the whole period? Because it didn't end in a satisfactory way. Like no weapons were found, a bunch of people died, the war ended, and people just kind of moved on. Like there was like, it was a fruitless kind of exercise that cost a lot of people their lives and a lot of money.
I don't know if it was as fruitless as like Afghanistan is going to have turned out to have been, right?
Yeah,
It's not like we cleared out of Iraq and Saddam Hussein's two sons took over and the Ba'ath Party was back in charge, right? So I think to some extent the reason that it doesn't have the impact that you're talking about is perhaps because the mission accomplished banner wasn't all wrong after all. Right? To some extent, if the more you limit the scope of what the plan was, maybe it wasn't such a disaster after all. And especially if you limit, if you don't play the game of saying, well, also Syria, well, also ISIS, well, also all that has followed since then. If you try to just sort of contain it into that one little effort, then to some extent, mission accomplished.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
What else did you watch?
I also watched Public Enemy. Johnny Depp. He's like
like the John Dillinger story or
guy.
something?
Yeah. This wasn't a particularly good movie, but again, I don't remember watching it, and I was like, okay, let's see what this is about. And some fucking guy back in the 30s.
You have time to watch these movies. All the football going on. Like,
squeeze it in,
Yeah. Worth revisiting or no? I don't think I ever saw it.
Actually, this was a movie that I watched in phases. I caught like the first hour. I was like, all right, this is good enough for now. Let me circle back. Because I think I did see this movie because with the Green Zone or whatever it's called, there wasn't anything that like, oh, I remember this scene. Like, but with Public Enemy, there was. So I was like, I think I've seen how this kind of turns out. The guy dies at the end. I mean, it's based on an actual guy.
I don't think I've ever been in danger of stumbling upon the Green Zone, whereas Public Enemy, I feel like flipping around, you might see it on cable or on a streamer somewhere and like catch a few minutes of it. Whereas they like memory hold the Iraq War movie.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, I wonder how it came about. It wasn't like a featured, like recommended, pick. I think I must have just scrolled through it. I was like, oh, I don't recall watching this.
All right. Well, we watched a ton of football, and otherwise we're occupied with Little League baseball stuff. I was extremely stressed out about the start of the Little League baseball fall ball season, but it went off without a hitch. Largely, I
don't know what he thought was going to happen.
Yeah, what were your concerns?
Well, I was essentially in charge of two divisions of this Little League here, and had to make sure that first of all we're interleaguing with multiple different Little Leagues in different cities here in our area. So like I'm worried about making sure all of the logistics of that play out and making sure that all of the various like that no personalities are offended to the point where we can't interleague with these people moving forward. Like it's all, I mean, granted it's very small bore stuff and the stakes are quite low, but like it was to some extent there are scores of families who were, whether they knew it or not, relying on this asshole to make sure that everything turned out the way that it needed to with a minimal upset. And that was stressful to me. And I felt it more in this season than I have in seasons past because so much of the planning and preparation for this season was done by me. I don't know how it ended up being the case that's what happened, but that's what happened.
How.
What?
Nobody else does it.
Yeah. By the way, 2 games this weekend, one for Calvin's team and one for Katie's team. 2 wins, baby.
Nice.
22-2 we beat.
Wow.
A crosstown team.
There's no mercy rule. 22.
Nope.
No. Also, we have a bunch of 12-year-olds, and they have one 12-year-old.
Okay.
It
Yeah.
makes a difference.
It was a serious talent disparity. To be quite frank about it, it was nothing that I did as a coach. It was just the fact that they have zero pitching on that team, and we teed off on them. And then Katie's team won 5-3 in a much more exciting and competitive game. Yeah, that's the update from Charlottesville and the Little League scene. Lori's making for
No, it's supposed to be a surprise.
not for
Just edit it.
not for anybody. Abe, have you got anything else for us tonight?
Nope.
Well, I guess that's all we've got for you tonight then, and we will talk to you next time.
Later.
When should we record this week? Wednesday or Thursday?
Wednesday would work better. Thursday, there's some thing that I'm going to.
Oh, yeah?
You know, like those composers of, like, you know, like the movies? Like, they're doing a show.
Symphony.
Yeah, like one of those things. Like, John, I forget who it is. Some guy.
John Williams or someone.
Yeah,
John
one.
something.
No, I think it's
Hans
Hans
Zimmer?
Yeah, that
cool.
guy. Yeah.
Brah! That guy?
Yeah, so basically it'll be like some show. Somebody was like, hey, you want to come to this thing? I was like, yeah, all
Pretty
right.
good.
Yeah. So,
Hang on, I want to know.
it is.
The World of Hans Zimmer? Does that sound right?
Yes, that is exactly right. Did he do Interstellar?
Yep.
Yeah, that guy.
In Duluth? Gas
Yes,
South
Gas
Arena.
South, yeah. Oh,
Do you think that there will be kids 25 years from now who, like the way I still call it the Georgia Dome, even though it's Megatron's butthole, and it bums me out that it's Mercedes-Benz, like, will there be people who are nostalgic for Gas South
that's
Arena?
right. Me and my friends always
Not
call it Gas
nostalgic,
South.
but if they are teenagers, when it's called all one thing, they'll probably call it that thing.
Yeah. Also, I think Gas South Lamp, whatever, is like maybe the third or fourth rebrand. I remember it was called something else.
Yeah,
If I had a better memory, I would.
lasts
This is
long
what I'm
enough.
right. This is what I'm saying. Like we have achieved the point in human culture where people won't actually be nostalgic for this time because it's a time that is built entirely on nostalgia, right? Like it's
Yeah.
like this is
let's
why
not start a conversation right now.
the Billboard show is true in its hypothesis about the world, which is nobody gives a shit about the modern culture really, because the modern culture that is successful is a desperate plea for what came before.
Right.
And so 20 years from now, there will not be the desperate plea for now.
Yeah. People always chasing something that happened in the past.
The thumbs up was Abe. The
No, it's all me.
sarcastic thinking face,
That was all
faux
me.
intellectual was me, and the crying eyes
Just-
was Lori.
Oh, but I can make them. No, this is Abe.
Racist.
But yeah, so like Wednesday would work better.
Anyway. All right.
All right.
Good
Wednesday.
night.
8:30.
That works.
Night.
Here we are, Abe. Cast Iron Brains, a podcast about avocados and stuff. What the fuck are we doing here? What are we?
The proceeding was created with 100% human content.